How's it going, YouTube? Today I'm going to show you how to replace the power, or it's now called the side button. I'm just going to continue to call it power for the rest of the video. Volume mute switch wireless charging coil flex. This is a board out, battery out repair. We're also going to have to pull out the front camera and rear camera assemblies. So just know that's what you're in for. I'm going to walk you through all of this. If you have any questions or comments, anything that I missed, please feel free to leave a comment below. All the tools are going to be needed to complete this repair are going to be in the description. So if there's anything that you see me use that you don't have, please help out the channel. Yeah. So starting with the 12s, Apple improved the strength of the perimeter gasket, which aids in making the phone water resistant. They're considerably stronger to remove the screen. I've already made a video about how to do that, and it goes quite a bit more in detail. So I'm going to leave a link right about here. But the general idea is you use a Magic Glass, because you'll notice how much wider it is than the iSesamo. You use heat. I don't use heat in this case, but you can use heat. I'd suggest it. And then you use an iSesamo along the sides, but just to get it started. That's what the Magic Glass is for, because it just disperses the pressure on a much wider area, so you're less likely to damage the OLED, which I've done on more than one occasion. The screen on this, just rock it back and forth. I made it look easy there. Next, we need to remove both our ear speaker flex and our screen flex. But before we do that, you want to disconnect the battery. This is really important. Just because your battery is, just because the device is off, there is still electricity running through the board, and the last thing you want to do is accidentally short something out. So disconnect your battery. So to make it easier to get to the battery pull tabs, we pull out the loudspeaker, and then just like with the screen, your best friend is going to be 91 or 99% rubbing alcohol. As you can see, the technique I have here is I like to get it started with the tweezers. So we'll sort of grab, roll a little bit, almost like spaghetti is what I think of, and then I use a couple of drops, and then it takes the bite out of the adhesive, makes it so much easier and less likely to have torn tabs. The top is a little bit more difficult, and I think I actually tear one here. So if that does happen, you'll see what I'm about to do in just a sec, but I'm going to put another video on what happens or what to do if your battery pull tabs tear. So in this case, the bottom two I was able to get out. So I come in with a wedge. You don't want to wedge it up too much, but really it's just a matter of putting some isopropyl alcohol, that wedge, and then rock it back and forth, and it comes right out. So in no particular order, but like I said, we're gonna have to remove the board, cameras. There is an order of operations. You got to pull out the front. It's not a bad idea to put your cameras in a little bag. The last thing you want is for dust or debris to get on them. So for the board, we have to remove this tri-wing, standoff, and then we need to remove this as well, these two Phillips. We're also going to need to push this pin in. It's going to make it easier to get our board out. So coming up, we're going to be disconnecting pretty much every flex. As long as you're using the chisel end of your nylon spudger and just being gentle, you should be fine. There is a little shelf basically right in front of every flex, so as long as you're not digging around too much, as you can see, they pop out pretty easily. Just be gentle. There is a little bit of adhesive right about here. And one last standoff screw. Did I say one last? Remove the tapping engine. Then our board comes out. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And we're out, just like that. There are 2 visible screws for the side. There are 4 on the volume and mute. One of them is hidden. I will point this out in just a sec. Last but not least, it's hidden. But it is right here, covered up with some tape. There you go. So now we need to heat up these flexes. There's a little bit of adhesive along the edge here, and then some more right here. So, in order to get this started, you want to gently lift up on this tape. And usually once you get about here, you can use the chisel side now comes heat on. Now I'm going to be reusing this flex, so I'm going to do my utmost to be gentle. Take this, set it aside. Now we can wedge our on both sides. Voila, comes out just like that. So, it's at this point I'm going to mention it's not a bad idea, depending on what issue you have. Sometimes the issue isn't actually this flex. Sometimes the issue is the actual button itself. And both of them work basically the same way. You take off this little hanger. This bracket right here flips up at a 90-degree angle, and then you just pull it directly out. And then you can see, or should be able to, and they just pop out just like that. And sometimes what happens is, like, let me see if you can see this, but it's literally, they're just dirty. I mean, you can see all that junk that I just removed right there. Sometimes the issue is on the actual button itself. Once again, not a bad idea. A lot of the times with like sugary drinks, sometimes it can take, it doesn't, click or move freely. So it feels like really spongy. So you can take oh my God, can't even think of the word, Q-tip. There, so this is now clean. Do the same thing to these sides. It's not a bad idea to even I don't know. Never mind, scratch that. You can do the same thing to the other side. Pop the button back in. Which is why it's not a bad idea, especially if you're watching this ahead of time, to just be gentle with this flex, because maybe this isn't the problem and you need to reuse it. But, so I'll show you this again. I press in on the button, and then that little fork snaps into place, rotate clockwise, and then it should snap in just like that. And you can kind of, I didn't have that problem where it didn't want to click or move, but just do what I just did right there. Put some pressure or some resistance on it each way. Make sure that it's moves properly, because also sometimes the problem is that, like, if your actual button gets jammed, there's so many different scenarios, like where I've had to remove a button and then file a portion of it down, or even replace the button entirely. So they made these far easier. This used to be a gigantic pain on previous models, but now it locks into place, so you can pop one on, pop one off pretty easily. So if you're actually transferring flexes, make sure to put it in the locking position, which is to, you've seen me do this a couple of times now, slide in. If yours is not doing this, make sure the button in here is in the correct position. Also make sure this red line is facing up. Then we come back here. Sort of wiggle that back in place. We will then start with one. I don't tighten it all the way. Same thing with a second. I won't tighten it all the way. I can then tighten the first, or I guess the last, the second, the third, then come in. Make sure these click properly. Make sure your mute switch has full movement.
Let me come back.
sure that clicks. You do want to tighten these a decent amount. So if you think it's tight, give it an extra quarter turn. I don't know what this does, but we'll put it back. Now we come back with our board. So here, it has to look like that. And you drop in your SIM tray. There, it's not going anywhere. So the tri-wing goes in the bottom of the Taptic engine. There's a standoff that I just pointed to in the upper left. Our bracket and 2 Phillips. The longer Phillips is on the right, the shorter one is on the left. And lots of flex cables. The tri-wing is in the upper right, and then of course the standoff is in the left. There are these spacers. Three Phillips. There is so if you see this little tri-wing right here, right around here, there's a little slot that this piece is supposed to go under, or in between, I guess, or else the camera is going to sit too high. And don't do that, that's no good. So just like that. Now, it's a good idea to make sure that you don't have any dust that landed in your camera, or that'll mess up your rear camera. Obviously, if you do, clean it out. We then have these 2 little tabs that go there. So we have to come in from an angle. Next up, we just need to install our battery, replace the perimeter gasket, and throw our screen on. A few more plates, test the device, and voila. So you can pretty much use any double-sided tape that you want, but it's not a bad idea to get these pull tab type, because if you ever need to open the phone again, obviously it's considerably easier to do it this way as opposed to having to heat up the phone and, you know, pry out the battery. I've seen some horror stories, and even ones that have come out of repair shops. So, but as you can see right here, it's just a matter of aligning it. It's also not a bad idea to get an extra one of these in case you misinstall it the first time. So my technique with batteries is you want to, you don't want to just lay the battery in. On more than one occasion, I have done that, and then the flex cable doesn't have proper travel, up, light, you know, up, down, left, right, whatever. So the technique that I have is connect it, so then we know no matter where I place this battery, this flex cable will have proper reach, and lay it down. Apply some pressure. Now, I'm going to mention this now, but I'll also mention it before I connect my screen, which will be in not that long. Disconnect your battery. Just because your device is off, there is still electricity running through the board as long as your battery is connected. So this won't make the phone water resistant again, but it certainly will keep dust out of the device and also the Face ID area. And it'll also keep the screen from tapping up against the frame, which can get really annoying really quick. You want to make sure to use an isopropyl rubbing alcohol pad just to make sure that when you're putting a new gasket on, it has a clean mating surface. So just like battery adhesives, it's not a bad idea to get another one of these. If you can, finding them in 3 layer is the ideal. I think this one is a 3 layer. I'll show you what that means in just a sec, but this was the first layer. The second layer stays on and helps us align, which you can start at the top. I start at the bottom, and then you just want to, it took me a while before I got halfway decent at these. So this is the second layer. So the third layer is still covering the actual adhesive, which is nice because we can pull that off at the last second. But here we go. So we're going to, once again, make sure our battery is disconnected. On some of the wider flexes, I use a technique where I don't press dead center. I press right to left or left to right, as it helps avoid bowing the flex cable, especially one that is as expensive as this one, because if the flex is damaged, then your screen is damaged. Connect our battery. So there are these little brackets. I don't know if you can see them, but they're right here and right here. And that's what these two little hooks clip into. So now's the time to remove our perimeter gasket. I'm also going to mention it's not, or it's a good idea to check and make sure that we don't have any screws stuck to any place in the phone where they're not supposed to be. The usual culprits are the perimeter gasket. So if you didn't replace your perimeter gasket, just make sure there aren't any screws that are stuck to it. Also the loudspeaker and Taptic engine, and then also the ear speaker, just because they have some magnets in them, so screws tend to get stuck. On more than one occasion, I have damaged a screen because I was impatient. So we seat the phone. We see that it's flush. Crunch, crunch. Thank you for watching.